Next, we're going to go ahead and bulk the sculpture up a little bit. So I'm going to take a nice little length of this and I fold it over. I'm going to do so again. And I fold about that many times, so about 3 times, 4 if you want something a little even more delicate, but this is about what I want here. This thickens it up, but it allows you to then really bulk it up by folding it out over the area. So what I'm going to do right now is focus more on the torso, the thighs, and then a little bit on the arms, but I'm going to leave almost everything down here bare because the clay is going to grab just fine to these tubes and to these areas inside in there. And the ankles, as we saw over the drawing, are almost as thick as they should be. So I don't want any foil in there. Like, that's bulky enough. Same thing with the feet. That's going to stay. I'm just more concerned with this big mass in the middle here. So this is why I make it into bands. So I'll start by doing this. I'll fold it. Bend it around. And I'll do the same thing over here. Just keeps it together, and then it allows you to really just crunch it in. So me crunching it around there makes it so it doesn't move around on you. And I'm going to do this until we're not close to our border that we've drawn, but at the very least much closer than just this like really soft and thinned out limb here. So just going to keep going a little bit more. And every time I'm done, I'm kind of crushing it in place. Areas like armpits and whatnot, try to leave them fairly unencumbered. You don't want to bulk it too much because then you can't really pinch in too well when you're doing little like anatomical structures in here. So you don't have to get too descriptive with this. Make sure you don't put way too much. So now I'm probably gonna see how I've put a little bit more on this side than that side. So this time I'm gonna start right here. Now I'm going to do one of these for each of the thighs. It sometimes helps to just move the arm out of the way. You could repose it later. Remember, always crush it. You don't want anything that's soft and moving around on you. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm adding a little bit here to the area where the calves are. It's not entirely necessary, but I had these little scraps, so I'm just using them. So when you bend them like this and you overlap them, you can start to cut them for smaller areas. So here I'm just gonna do the top, basically just the top part of the arm. See how I favored the top a little bit? Just gave a small amount to the rest of it. Notice that I keep crunching. That makes it so that this doesn't move on me later. Seems like this is a little hollower than this. So even though they're not super even, I'm fine with that. I can even it out when I have the clay going. Then I'm going to pose this back to where I had it. Remember the groin area, make sure you don't overbuild here. It's very easy to just keep going here, and then you don't have any area underneath to really pack the clay in. So I'm just making sure that that's good to go. Something you can do, if you want an area to be even tighter, you can take your pliers and just kind of like really bite into it. You could move things around a little too much when you do this. That's if you really want to make sure that there isn't too much in there. You could just really kind of clinch all that to really solidify. Then I'm going to take a small little bit, again, not very much, and I'm going to make a little ball over the top of the head. Make it a little bit more 3D. But I'm going to let the clay do the majority of the talking there. So I want as much freedom as possible on the portrait. Now that I took a look at it, this part could either go in, or I can add a little bit more right here. But again, this is just small little details. Oh. That's why you want the strips. That part that just came off like that, because it had nowhere to grab. But there we go. I feel better about that. So I'm going to check it in the round. Still got that almost over the top stance. That's okay, because it's going to get more subtle when we add the clay. So I'm looking at it from all angles. And I think he's ready to go. Before we start sculpting, we're going to prepare our Sculpey here. So you could use this right out of the bag. It's not really that big of a deal. I need more than this, and I kind of want to make a custom skin color. So I'm going to mix all 4 of these and see what we get. I've never mixed these exact 4 before, but it should work. Generally, even if it's different Sculpey, so this is original Sculpey, this is Super Sculpey, this is Primo, and then this is Sculpey 3. Any kind of polymer clay, when you mix it with itself, as long as it's polymer clay and not oil-based clay or anything different like that, it takes mixing quite well. It's the same temperature, usually 275 degrees for it to harden. So even mixing brands is possible. So as long as you're looking for a specific color, even if you have to maybe get some of that other brand that they sell at, I think it's called Craft Smart and Super Sculpey, you can mix those together to get a unique color if you wish. So generally it comes like this. This is pretty soft. It comes with these lines, so just in case you want to measure out how much of this to that ratio for specific colors, you can just make mental notes like it took 3 bars of the beige and maybe 2 bars of this one. And then you see how these has these thicker lines. Maybe it took 3 bars of this and 2 bars of this for the desired color. So if you want to do, you know, different parts for different mixtures, just like if you were mixing paint, that's kind of what these are for, so that you can kind of peel them off. I'm just going to mix them all and see what happens. But just so you have that, those are kind of standard across the board. So almost every polymer clay, I mean, this one is actually quite nice, but sometimes they're a little brittle, and all it takes is you to knead them a little bit with your fingers, and then they'll be ready to go. So you could just knead it right before you use it. I use one of these to both mix and to start to dress the sculpture, and you'll see what I mean by dress in a second here. So we're going to make this our mixer here. So this is a pasta roller. So it basically creates sheets through here through two spinning gears on 2 rollers, where you take a handle like this, goes on, and you go like that, and it'll roll out a sheet. So if you put 2 colors in there, it'll kind of marble them together. And the more you fold and put them through and fold and put them through, the more mixture and an even mix you're going to get. You could even use them when they're marbled as well. That could create some, you know, pretty nice patterns on certain creatures. It's just maybe that pattern might get moved around a little bit if you actually sculpt on it. So you'll have to do some experimentation there if that's the route you want to go. But this, I'm going to just start mixing them slowly, going through here. So you'll see me do it. I'll do one really quick here. I'll take this. It's pretty gummy. I'm going to put this here for a second. And then I'm going to start mixing it with this green. I'm just going to do one part of it. As you can see, this one's just a little bit more brittle. See how it separates? So in order to get polymer clay going, you kind of need to do this until it's back together and very pliable. The beige has the added bonus that it just kind of comes like that, which is nice. So notice this. I'm going to go and mix it into here. I'm just going to start the mix, but not caring too much. I'm going to check here to see that. I'm going to set it to, there's a little gear back here. It's set to 5. So I'm going to set it to like its biggest extrusion point. I'm going to feed it through here. And just with what little we've got, you see how it's starting to blend these through. And this comes off, so you got to be careful. It also comes off so that you could use it in these other ones. This will make literal pasta. So it'll make very thin and then more like fettuccine over here. And this will be good for like laying small bits. So you can kind of sculpt with small pieces of pasta. This process just removes a little bit of that like work with your fingers. Even though you have to use your arm a little bit, this is a little bit of a workout, but it's kind of nice. Especially when you want to mix things evenly. It just takes a little while to get going. And then once you have it in this shape here that I'm about to pull out, once you have this, you can start to fold it on itself. And put it through again. And this time, because it's already kind of like very sheet-like, it'll extrude even faster. See? It also speeds things up if you hand mix it a little bit before. Push it through again. It's starting to go. It's going very green. So now I'm just going to spend the next about 20 minutes probably getting all this fully, mixed together, and then we'll reconnect afterwards. Now I have a pretty even color here. It's got its little, inconsistencies here and there, but they don't bother me as much. Probably would have wanted to have a little bit of red, perhaps maybe a little blue I should have had, but each of these little containers here, they're about $3, so I just picked a few. I'm pretty happy with this color, so we'll just proceed. But now these here, these kind of like lasagna pieces here, they're great for draping around the foil that we put on a little while ago, and that'll get the majority of the bulk established so that then we can then sculpt the anatomical portions on top of it. So though you can very slowly build up piece by piece, even though that was quite a bit of work that I did there, I think it was about almost 30 minutes to get, almost like a block and a half. I didn't want to use all this because it seemed like way too much red. This much clay of like a consistent color, and it's also been kind of like pieced together like this. It's going to be a lot easier for me to go from this now to cover the whole sculpture without having to individually do this with every little piece and then attach little by little. The sheets are going to help quite a bit. Because once you start to do this, you'll notice that when you have some sheets already like this, once you put it right back through, it extrudes a lot easier once it's already kind of begun the process of being pushed through. So from here, it's going to be easy to start draping our figure. So let's proceed.